So the next question I'm going to pose to my table of guests is, what are some of the biggest issues that we are facing working with minority buyers? Because, as a Black minority agent, a lot of our buyer pool comes from our sphere of influence, which is other, African American people, indigenous people, people of color, right? So what are some of the issues that we're seeing as we're working with buyers and people within our sphere of influence? So Tara, I'll ask you first, and then we'll go to somebody else on the other side.
Okay. For me, in the area of real estate that I work in, I still experience quite a bit of discrimination, whether it's walking through a property, just so happens the homeowner is there, they notice my client, and they create tons of obstacles for that client to purchase. Or, other realtors will make comments that are discriminatory or that can be seen as racial slurs. And it happens often. Mm-hmm. It's not something that is, once or twice. It's a regular occurrence still.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about you, TJ?
I tend to get a lot of misinformation sometimes. A lot of times the first time people learn about money is from salespeople. And they are getting information that would benefit whoever's communicating the information. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it can kind of be a block sometimes in regards to what their perspective is. And then too, we get a lot of sound bites right now across social media. Mm-hmm. And I hate talking about social media, but it's one of those things to where I literally will see people go on rants about their perspective on real estate. And the reality is, the undertone is, I'm not in a position to get it right now, so I want to down it. Mm-hmm. And I want to reaffirm myself. And that will start resonating with people. Right. Real estate ain't for everybody and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, 150-year history will show that if we can get 40 acres and a mule, let's try to get it. And so, but I think it's just not understanding how it looks coming to term. I got a close friend right now that's relocating for work. They bought a house. I talked to them for a long time because they were a big stock market guy, and talked to them for a while about, hey, buy a house. And this was in another market, so it wasn't even thinking I could help them with. But I just told them, try to buy a house. They've owned that property for 2 years and will make $150,000 to relocate. I mean, that's how powerful it is. And he said, I'm a believer. Now you got me hooked. So I think it's just misinformation, misunderstanding. And a lot of times it may feel more difficult than it is if you actually had, the right insight. So.
And I'll also jump in on that. I think the misinformation also comes from the fact that a lot of our home buyers, this may be the first home buyer in someone's family or in their generation. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming into it, like you said, learning things off of social media, sound bites, a salesperson. They're not learning it from, granddad who owned properties all his life, or mom who, or their parents who bought a house when they were young. They may not have had that. Do you experience that, Terry?
Yeah, definitely. I would say one of the biggest things is, I think a lot of the people of color, like you said, that are coming in, that you're not coming from a place where there was generational wealth, or that you are the first homeowner in the family or not. And so when a lot of the buyers that are out there and they're wondering, where are these people getting this money to pay all this cash? Mm-hmm. And a lot of time that's coming from money from other homes that those other families have bought and purchased in the past. And so now they have liquid cash that they can go and purchase these other homes and have larger down payments. Mm-hmm. So we all know that minorities, they make less than other nationalities and different ethnic groups. Mm-hmm. So when they come to play ball and they come to the table, if you're someone who doesn't have a home that you've sold and you mm-hmm. actually have got that money, the equity to put down on the next house, or even let's say if you didn't have a 401k or something that you can look back, that you can actually pull that money from, you're out here in a race to try to buy a home with someone who has way more money than you do.
Yes.
So that's what I'm seeing with a lot of my buyers. I do have a lot of buyers who do have a substantial amount of money, but they don't have the amount that some of these others have, from whether it was from selling off stock. I'm not going to say Bitcoin or anything, but some of the assets, of the different asset classes that some of these other people have. So I find that to be a challenge. The affordability comes in, not really necessarily the affordability, but having the resources to overbid on the properties and to pay to go over on the appraisal and things like that.
To be competitive,
Exactly.
yeah. And is that what you're seeing, like from the for working first time home buyers and like lending and the type of financing that first time home buyers are able to get?
100%. A lot of my clients, I'd say at least 50% are single minority females. They maybe have kids or maybe don't have kids. But the fact that they're single, that's one income now. So that kind of puts them a little bit behind. And then a lot of them need down payment assistance, which can be another hurdle because sometimes it takes a little bit longer to close those loans. And sometimes on the other end, the seller sees that type of financing and says, oh, well, no, we don't want to wait that long, or maybe this person is not as credit worthy as someone else, which if someone has been pre-approved and they're ready to go 9 times out of 10. So, the seller will get their cash regardless, but sometimes that becomes a hindrance if they need a little help. Which has been historically, a lot of people have used, down payment assistance in those programs. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing from a lot of my clients, is that hurdle, trying to get to what Terry was saying, to his point, just kind of behind the 8 ball because they don't have that. They're the first one making that purchase, and they just don't have that strong financial position.
Yeah, and I think that's so we're going to talk about like what are some of the misperceptions of Black and minority agents, but is that, well, from hearing what you guys have said, it is so important for us to help our community, because I think that we are some of the strongest advocates for our community. Like, we understand, when someone comes to us, what they're coming from, and we are truly here to help them and be an advocate for them.